My name is Wes Trujillo, and my job is really simple. Sit alone in the station in the middle of the desert and watch a pipeline that carries oil across 100 miles of nothing. If you ever get offered a job like mine, and the man training you slides a car across the table with 5 rules on it, don't do what I did and laugh, because the rules on that card are the only reason I'm still here to tell you about them. Three of people who had this job before me aren't. I've done this for 7 years now. The station is a single small building, a control room, a bunk, a bathroom, and a generator, all sitting by itself in the open desert 60 miles from the nearest town in any direction. There is road in, if you can't tell that. There is no neighbors, there is no lights but mine for as far as I'm concerned. At night, the dark out here is a physical thing. You have never seen a dark like the desert at 2 in the morning with no moon. It presses on the windows. The job itself is really simple. The pipelines run underground past my station, and I monitor the pressure, the flow, the pump status. All of it in a board of gauges and screens. If a number goes wrong, a pressure drop that could mean a leak, a pump that trips, I catch it and I call it in. Most nights nothing goes wrong. Most nights I sit and watch numbers that never change and listen to the wind. That's the job. It's isolation work. They hire people who can handle being completely alone, because out here you are more alone than most people will ever be in their lives. The man who trained me was the previous monitor, a leathery old guy named Cliff. Cliff had sat at the station for almost 20 years alone, which everyone told me it was some kind of a record, because most people can't take even like 1 or 2 years out here before the solitude runs them off. He showed me the board, the generator, the water system, the radio, all simple. Rule 1. At night, the motion lights around the station will come on sometimes. If they come on and you don't see anything, that's fine. If they come on and you do see something standing at the edge of the light, turn off all the interior lights and wait. The station has motion sensor floodlights around the outside, security lighting. So if anyone approaches in the dark, the place lights up. Out here, they get tripped all time by wildlife, jackrabbits, deer. You get used to the lights snapping and seeing nothing, or seeing an animal, and you stop paying attention. About 5 months in, the floodlights came on around midnight, and I glanced at the window the way you do, and there was something standing at the very edge of the light, right at the boundary where the floodlight faded into dark. It was shaped like a man, tall and thin, standing perfectly still, facing the station, but it was too tall and too thin, and it stood in a way a man doesn't stand, and not shifting, not moving, just planted there at the edge of light, watching the building and watching me. My first instinct was to go to the window and get a better look, maybe flip on some lights to see it clearly, and that's the exact opposite of rule 1. If you see something standing at the edge of the light, turn off all the interior lights and wait. It took everything in me, because turning off my own lights out here in the dark with that thing standing outside felt like the most insane thing a person could do. But I did it. I killed every light inside the station, and I sat in the dark and waited, and I watched that shape through the window. With my lights off, it couldn't see in, and I understood. Sitting there, that was the whole point of the rule. As long as my lights were on, I was lit up like an aquarium, and it could see me, study me, and it stayed. The second it went dark, it lost everything, and after a few minutes, the floodlights timed out and switched off, and the desert went totally black. And when the wind stripped them back on 20 minutes later, the edge of the light was empty. It was gone. I asked Cliff about it. He'd given me a number to call. The number, I called it and asked. I asked Cliff about it. He'd given me a number to call. He answered on the second ring like he'd been waiting. Tall one? Stands on the edge? He said. Yeah, it's round lights. Yeah, it's round to the lights and round to you being watched. You keep your lights on and keep gawking at it. You're feeding it. And it comes closer every time the flood cycle. There was a monitor before me, name of Hargrove, kept his lights on all night. And then, fascinated, next monitor they sent out found the station lit up bright, front door standing open, and no Hargrove. You go dark and you wait it out, every time. Rule 2. The pipeline pressure will sometimes spike on the board with no cause. If it spikes and then you hear something moving inside the pipeline, do not go out to inspect it. The pipelines run underground past the station, and part of the job is inspecting the exposed section. a stretch of big steel pipe that comes up and out of the ground near the station for the valves and sensors. When a pressure reading does something strange, sometimes you have to go out and physically look at the exposed section. About 2 years in, the pressure on the board spiked, a sharp jump, way up, the kind of reading that means something is badly wrong, and then dropped back to normal on its own. No cause, and a few seconds later, through the window from the direction of the exposed pipe section, I heard a sound. It was a slow, heavy, dragging sound. Something moving inside the pipeline, something big, sliding along inside of that steel pipe, slow and deliberate. The job said go inspect it, but Rule 2 said don't. If it spikes and then you hear something moving inside the pipeline, do not go outside to inspect it. I stayed inside, and I listened to that slow dragging sound travel along the pipeline, moving. I realized from the far end of the exposed section toward the near end, toward the station, something is inside a sealed steel oil pipeline. Something inside a sealed steel oil pipeline moving towards me, slow and heavy. The metal groaning as it passed. It reached the point where the pipe was the closest to the station wall, maybe 15 feet from where I sat, and it stopped and stayed there for almost an hour, and I sat and felt it on the other side of that wall, inside the pipe, waiting, and then, eventually, the dragging started up again and moved back to the way it came, faded, and was gone. When I called the Cliff, he immediately said, "You did right. There is something that gets in the line out here. I don't know how, I don't know what, but when it's moving, you do not go out and open an inspection port and look at it." Monitor named Brad did. He heard it and went out, opened the port to see it, and opened the port to see what was making the noise. And they found his flashlight by the open port and never found Brad. Whatever is in that line, you let it move and you stay inside. You never ever open it up to lock. Rule 3 was a bit different. Rule 3 said, do not trust the radio after 2 a.m. If a voice on the radio tells you to do something to the pipeline, confirm it by calling the number on the card first. The radio is my main link to the outside, to the control center that oversees the whole pipeline, to the supervisors, to the emergency coordination. If there is a real problem, the control center will radio me instructions, shut a valve, adjust a pump, whatever needed. You follow these instructions. That's a chain of command. Rule 3 says after 2 in the morning, do not trust it. About 3 years in, around 3 in the morning, the radio crackled. A voice identified itself as the control center, called official, using the right call signs, the right procedures, and it told me there was a critical pressure event building in my section, and that I needed to go out immediately and manually open a specific relief valve on that exposed pipe section, or the line could rupture. Everything sounded right. The voice knew the procedures, the scenario was plausible, and the pipeline rupture is a real catastrophe. Spilled oil, environmental disaster, people fired, so I was reaching for my code to go out and open the valve when Rule 3 stopped me. If a voice tells you to do something on the pipeline, confirm it by calling the number on the card first. So instead of going out, I picked up the phone and called the real control center on the direct line, the number on Cliff's card. And the real control center told me they had no pressure events in any section. Everything was normal. They had not radioed me. They had not told me to open any valve. There was no emergency at all.